Hey, what's going on, guys? Joe McCall here, and I got a special treat for you. This is a kind of a different format that I've done in the past with podcasts where I normally just teach or I interview somebody that is doing something right. But I wanted to do a coaching call as a podcast, and I have Brian with me, Brian Vaughan, who's going to be getting on here in a second. And we're going to be talking about how to basically kind of get your time back. Brian has been in the business for a long time. He's got, I think, his daughters working with him. We're going to be asking him all these questions here as we go through here, and I may be completely wrong. We'll find out. But I just talked to him a minute ago. I'm going to be bringing him on. I'm going to be asking him a ton of questions. My goal with these podcasts is to maybe you're going to hear some of your story inside of Brian's story as well. You're going to say, "Man, that's a great question. I'm glad somebody's asking that." Or I've never heard you answer that kind of a question before. And so my goal in doing these kinds of free coaching calls as podcasts and YouTube videos is to help you guys, to help Brian, but also to help the rest of you as well to make more money, do more deals, find more freedom. That's really kind of what we're all about in this business. That's why we're here. Brian's been doing real estate for a long time. I think he said he's been doing real estate for over 32 years, I think. We'll talk about that. And the markets change. What used to work may not work as well. And also many times what used to work works even better now because people forgot about it and aren't doing it anymore. Okay, so we're going to be talking about some of that stuff as well. Brian Vaughan, how are you, my man?
I'm doing great. Joe McCall, how are you?
Good. Thanks for being here. A month or two ago, I sent out an email to my list or Facebook post or something. I said, hey, who would like a free coaching call? And let's just dive in, put you on the hot seat, and let's talk about your business, your challenges, and kind of where you're at with things. So you've been in the business for a long time. Is that right, Brian?
I have. Let's make sure people understand it's not the land flipping business because I haven't been doing that a very long time. I've been an appraiser for 32 years. Actually started in March of 1990, which is probably older than some of your listeners have even been born. But yeah, I've been an appraiser for a long time, Joe, in 3 states. Okay. And so that's my experience.
And where are you based out of right now?
I am recently left the crazy city of Austin, Texas. We are about an hour northwest of Austin in a small town called Lampasas. But I'm from Southern California. I know you're from San Diego, and I'm from San Diego. So I started in San Diego a long time ago. Yeah. So
now you've been in the business a long time. You said something about your daughter or somebody's helping you, right?
Well, I have 2 helpers. One of my questions for you is about help. And yes, my daughter, 22-year-old daughter, just graduated college with a marketing degree.
Cool.
So, and didn't want to jump right into the corporate world. She recently got married at the young age of 21. So she's newly married and newly graduated. And she kind of wanted to hang out and kind of do the nesting thing and the stay-at-home thing. And I said, why don't you come work for me remotely? She's up in Dallas, and I need the help. She needs the part-time work. So yes, she's working for me part-time. I also, Joe, have had a VA, a virtual assistant, for over a year calling on houses. And recently, after I switched from houses to land when I bought your course, I switched my VA to calling on land. And so far, so good. She's pulling in leads regularly, and I'm calling on them. And
that's cool.
And I'm happy with that. So my first question to you, when you did ask this 5 or 6 weeks ago, what we're struggling with or what we can use help on, my first question is, I know you're big on VAs, and I know you're big on using your own children in your business. So who better to ask than you how I can best utilize their time and my money to pay them, of course. If you have any insight or tips or any suggestions that you can give me or others on those 2 topics.
Great question. I love that.
Thank you.
Because I always think about outsourcing. Don't try to fix your weaknesses, outsource them. Exactly. And I'm always big on asking who, not how, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. And you've been in the business long enough. There's things you're really good at, and there's things you aren't really good at. Right. So instead of like, do you feel comfortable and strong with computers?
I do. Yeah. Good. Yeah. I've been using them for my whole business. So for 32 years. Yeah. I feel fine with that. But cold calling, no thanks.
No, you don't like cold calling either, huh? Oh, that's
It
got to be
does,
the
right?
worst thing in the world. I can't stand cold calling. It works, but I don't like it. Give me a
And by
pre-screened,
the way,
motivated
Joe,
seller lead.
I'm sure you already know this, but we have, it seems like a 2 or 3 second delay in this video. So if I
I'm
answer your
sorry.
questions, you'll get that. So
Okay, okay.
yeah,
Good.
yeah.
All right, so let me ask you, the VA that is she's doing cold calling for you. So you're pulling a list, skip tracing it, she's cold calling them, right?
Exactly. Right. Right.
And how many leads is she calling a day?
She's calling, probably several hundred on a triple line dialer,
Okay.
Mojo. And she's literally giving me, it's like one lead a day, Joe. It's not that much, but I'm getting her for a great rate. If I can, I'll tell you, it's $4 an hour. So where can you beat that, right?
Yeah, and she
So
has good English.
she does speak well. Yes. Hmm.
How many
Yeah.
hours a day is she dialing?
Four
Four.
times
All right.
5 days a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, she should be getting more than just one a day on average. She should be getting one or two every hour of cold calling. So she should be giving
Wow.
you, in my opinion, from our experience. Now it depends on the county that you're targeting, right?
Okay.
And it depends on
Yeah.
how good your skip tracing data is. Um,
Yeah.
but we're finding our VAs get one to two leads every hour of cold calling that they're doing.
Okay. So
I
okay.
would dig into like, is there something she's saying that's not right? And for me, a lead is any seller that raises their hand and says, "Yeah, I want to sell my property." Right.
Right.
So maybe you're having her do a bunch of more pre-screening and only sending them to you if they meet a certain motivation level. I don't know. But what is the kind of the procedures, the steps that you're having her do?
Well, she has a script, and she takes this list and she puts them into Mojo, and she calls it. She calls it more than once, and she's got the script, and she goes through the script and asks them certain questions. And I've been refining that recently with the change to land.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, she speaks pretty well, and she follows the script as far as I know, and um, it's one or two a day. So yeah, if you're saying one or two an hour, then I have a problem. I need to figure out what it is.
It
Um,
could. How often is she calling the same list, or how often are you giving her a new list to call?
she cycles through a list, and then I'll give her a new list, and then she'll go back to the last list. I'll tell you one thing too. I'm concerned about is phone numbers too. In fact, this morning you made a comment on Facebook
Yeah.
about what was that called again? The
Well,
in your cell phone changing
yeah.
your.
Well,
Remember that?
it's been getting a lot hard just in the last week as we're recording this. The carriers have given everybody a September 1 deadline of registering their phone numbers. And it's just making it a lot harder to do texting and cold calling if you have not properly registered your phone number with whoever it goes to. So, like I use FreedomSoft a lot, and FreedomSoft kind of helps you with this registration process. But just the other day, I did it for a new student that I'm working with and did everything right. And it was flagged as high risk. And I don't know
Oh,
why. It was because it was a new LLC that she just created. But I contacted FreedomSoft. They're looking into it. But I'm hearing this across the board. And this morning and yesterday, we use two different companies for outbound texting. When somebody registers for a webinar or we're reminding somebody, hey, you signed up for this thing, click here to get it. Those have all stopped. They've all sent us messages saying, hey, you haven't registered
really?
your thing properly. And we did. We thought we did. So something's going on, and it might just be we need to wait a week or two for the dust to settle. But it
Mhm.
is getting harder across the board to send text messages and do cold calling, especially within the last week. And so maybe this is something your VA is running against. But I know usually if you're using Mojo, you buy your phone numbers through them, right?
Mhm.
They should be walking you through what you need to do to make sure you're in full compliance.
Okay.
Um, and but that's between you and Mojo sells the software that you're using, right? But
Right.
I will say
Right.
this too. I know I've talked to some people, and if you have an iPhone or an Android, you can get what's called a virtual phone number with your phone. So you can make inbound or outbound calls from a secondary phone number inside of your cell phone. And the cool thing about that is um, that allows you to do business calls from your cell phone without giving your personal cell phone number away. And that number is tied to you. And so you don't have to jump through all those hoops. Now, how do you get a VA to make calls through that number? I don't know, from the Philippines especially.
I also have, most people have a Google Voice number, which are free also, and that's another way to make calls, obviously, for free on
Yeah,
your
and
phone. I
I
use
don't know if
it.
I was texting you this morning with Google Voice, right? And it was working. And so
Yes.
like, but still, I know it's Google Voice has made it harder to register for a free
Mm-hmm.
number, a new number with
Mm-hmm.
Google Voice. So you have to just make sure you're jumping through these hoops. Um,
Yeah.
the so I'm not sure what's going on with cold calling and why it's gotten harder and what to do. Like Freedom Soft right now, they messaged me back and said we're talking to our rep. We're trying to figure out what's going on, just like everybody else too right now.
Okay.
So that's kind of where it's at.
Okay.
But I know for back to cold calling, um, it we find with our cold calling, we're getting 2 to 3 times the number of leads with land that we were with houses. So it's much
Really?
easier with land. And
Okay.
one of my campaigns, we're sitting on 400 leads right now, and it's been hard to keep up with that. That's been over the
Wow.
last 3 months from different cold calling campaigns that we're doing. But for me, my cold callers, and I'm using virtual assistants from the Philippines. I'm also using a third party company. And everybody should write this down. If you go to joemccall.com/lead mining, and you might want to check. Those are guys that I've used several times, and they do a good job. The guy who owns that company's name is Nick Nicholas.
Mhm.
joemccall.com/lead mining. You can hire his VAs to do cold calling campaigns for you. But my whole thing was, listen, just see, hey, is this Jim Smith? Do you own the 2.6 acre lot in XYZ County? Great.
Mhm.
I'm working with a guy named Joe, and he's looking to buy more vacant land in the area. You wouldn't have any interest in selling that property, would you? That's all I want to know. If they have an interest in selling, because I'm only pulling the list of people that have owned vacant land for over 10 years, or over 5 years or 10 years, who don't live in that county, right? And so if they say, yeah, I want to sell it, I just want to get some basic information from them about the property. And that's it. So I'm not going to have my VA do any kind of negotiating or asking any kind of real motivational questions. I just want them to raise their hand and say yes. And
Right.
ideally, then you should be calling that seller back immediately as soon as you can, right?
Right.
Trying to call them back and talk to them. You could go ahead and send them an offer. We're finding, though, with direct mail, we get 1 out of every 20 offers, 1 out of 20 to 30 offers accepted
Mhm.
from direct mail leads. We're getting about
Mhm.
1 out of every 100 to 150 offers accepted from cold calling. So does that make sense? The number of
Yeah.
offers you have to make with cold calling is much higher than the number of offers you have to make to a deal for direct mail. All right.
Interesting.
Now, it's still a good way. At the end of the day, it kind of all works out because your cost per lead is so much cheaper with cold calling, right? So
Mhm.
you give and take a little bit on all of that.
Mhm. Okay.
But that's the important thing is like maybe your VA is doing a good job. She's just doing too much pre-screening and not sending you enough leads. Do you think?
I think so. She was, and I actually changed her script to tone it down a bit. She was asking too many questions, and I think the people were getting frustrated with all the questions she had. I didn't give her the original land script. She had it, and she used it. And I looked at it eventually, like, wait, that's way too many questions. So I toned it way down, and I explained to her the point here is just to find, like you said, someone who raises their hand and said, yes, me, I'm interested in selling my land. Not all these other questions about, past due taxes and mortgages and all this stuff. So, um, I recently toned it down with a new script, and I'll see how that works out. I've got her working Tuesday through Saturday, so she's literally starting right now at 2 o'clock today. So we'll see what happens. But
I remember
it was with
I was gonna say one more thing. I remember it's important you recycle those lists. Like,
yes.
she shouldn't call them more than maybe 3 times.
Okay.
So make sure you're giving her new leads to call every about third time she goes through it to call.
Okay. We're doing about 2 or 3, so that's good to know. So why not more than 3 in your opinion?
By that point, you're just not going to get through to them, right?
They're not going to answer the phone, are they? Okay.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Now you could
with lead.
Are you feel pretty good that the data you're getting skip tracing is good quality data?
I'm getting it now from FreedomSoft.
Okay.
So I think so. Yeah.
That FreedomSoft is good.
Yeah, I'm also using Jerry Norton.
Okay.
For, his I don't know how good that is. I trust Jerry, so
it is
that's
good.
my 2 sources.
Yeah. All right. Good.
Yeah.
Oh,
Joe, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
On the lead mining that you just mentioned, that company, is that an all-in-one shop? Do they do everything? You just kind of tell them the market you want, and they'll pull the list. And of course, they use their own trained VAs, and they have the scripts and all that. Is that how it works?
I'm not sure if they will pull the land leads for you. I'd rather see you pull that list from Priced, and then send them that list, and have them skip to you. So what I did when I used Lead Mining Pros was I downloaded the list from Priced. I don't remember, 5,000 records. And I added in a new column, and I called it reference ID. And that's really important because these vacant lots don't have an address many times, right? And so sometimes they have an APN number or a parcel ID, and it's really hard sometimes to look up properties based on that. And then there's GPS coordinates, which are 20 digits long. So when the VA is doing the cold calling, she can see, or he, some basic information about the property. But then when they're putting that lead into my FreedomSoft, it's being tied to that letter reference ID. So Lead Mining Pros, I would tell them, when you get a lead that says yes, and they have good scripts too, by the way, they will put that letter reference ID number in the notes for you in FreedomSoft, right?
Nice.
So then you can look that reference ID up and get all the data on that piece of land from your spreadsheet.
Okay. That's another thing. I need to train my VA and get her into my FreedomSoft account. I have not done that yet. FreedomSoft is not easy. There's a lot of moving parts there, right? So I'm still trying to figure it all out myself. But I need to talk with her and train her on how to get in there and input information like you just said. So
I'm going to share my screen here because I want to show you something. Nice. All right. This is a cold calling campaign I have in FreedomSoft. Okay. And we have generated exactly 400 leads. 2 of them have turned into contracts, and we're working on selling those right now. But you can see here, we have sent 95 offers. Number one time, we've sent 218 offers, and we've sent 5 people offers 3 times. I've sent 318 offers to those 400 leads, okay? And then I've gotten 2 contracts out of that so far, so 318 divided by 2. I've got about 1 contract of every 159. Now, those are cold leads. I'm just calling them, and they're saying, yeah, I'll sell my property. Why not, right? So it's different from direct mail. I showed you another campaign from direct mail, and it would be more of like 1 out of 20 offers are getting accepted. With these leads, we're not calling them back, which we should be doing, right? Because I'm just too busy. My acquisitions guy's too busy. He's got a baby number 5 on the way, which is awesome. I'm so happy for him, right? So we're just taking these leads and sending them offers, which there's a lot of people that are watching this right now that have English as a second language. They are too busy. They don't have the time to talk to people. They just want to send a bunch of offers. So if you're like that, okay, that's fine. You're going to have to send 159 offers to get one accepted, but you're not talking to anybody. That's still not a bad deal. It's still not a bad deal. All right, I wanted to show this to you here because when you have a VA doing these calls for you and you want them to put the information into FreedomSoft, it can sometimes be a little confusing on how to do that, but it's really easy here. You see this share button right here?
Yes.
If you open that up, you have this link, this really long link right here. And I'm going to copy that to my clipboard. And if you give that link to that VA, it gives them this. It's a web form. Okay? So the VA could put the information in here. The guy's name is Jimmy Bob. I don't have his phone number, but his phone number, his email, his phone number, something like that. And maybe you don't know the address of the property, but you have the letter reference ID. Right? She just puts that in there. And, it's in Colorado and notes. Right? So here you would put the notes from the lead. This seller said they would take anything more than 30K. Okay? And they just click add lead. Now that lead was created and it's now blank, so they could do another one. So you just give them that link and they just keep on putting information in there. Now, if you go into your FreedomSoft and I just refresh the screen here, I can see right here I have a new lead. I click on new and there's Jimmy Bob.
Yep.
And you can see then the information here. The seller said they would take this. Here is that letter reference ID, right? So now you can go through and take this information and do what you need to do with it inside of FreedomSoft. Does that make sense? All that cold calling VA needs to do is fill out that link with every new lead that comes in. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. That's really helpful. That you just did it in like less than 5 minutes. So you answered my question. That's really good.
So again,
that share button right there.
Yeah. From the campaign, you have this share link right here. This is such a huge game changer. One other thing you could do is you could have them email to this campaign. So you have, if you click on email to campaign, you have this weird looking long email address here. And so you could tell a VA, all right, just put all the information into an email. And then maybe if you record your calls, attach the recording of the call and just email it to this email address. And every time you email that email address, it generates a new lead in that campaign. Make sense?
I like it. Yep.
If you want to get even more technical and advanced, you could create your own web form. So you could create a web form that has the fields that you want the VA to put in there. So you could have a field called letter reference ID, and then another field called acres, another field called parcel ID or APN number. And then you could create these web forms, put them onto a page, and then that VA could go to that page and fill out that web form. That's kind of too complicated.
It would be blank every time? The page would be a blank form every time she pulls it up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
nice. I like that.
There's a simple way to do that, but like what I would recommend is just go here to need help. And this is something I was going to show you. Do a search for web forms. This is an example of you could have your VAs learn how to create web forms. And there's a 39-minute video here on how to create a web form. And on that web form, you could put in there the fields that you want that VA to put in, right? And those could be attached to your FreedomSoft website. But when it comes to having VAs help you, your daughter's helping you, don't think that you have to be the expert on how to do all of this stuff, right? You want them to learn how to do the stuff. So what I do when I hire a VA, I say, all right, I want you to watch all these FreedomSoft tutorial videos. I want you to learn FreedomSoft. I want you to be the FreedomSoft expert.
Yep.
You got to look at what are your $5 an hour activities and what are your $500 an hour activities. And you want to make sure you're focusing only on the $500 an hour activities, which is talking to sellers, making offers. Like that's it. Your speed to income is directly proportional to the number of offers that you make. Not how well you know FreedomSoft, not how many cold calls you're doing. what moves the needle the most for you is making offers. So you should make it your goal to talk to 5 people a day.
Okay.
Right. And then make at least 3 offers a day. I'm going to be starting a new program here soon called 1 offer a day. I'm just going to be challenging people, just make 1 offer a day. But like, if you could make it a goal to make 3 offers a day, that could be with new leads, old leads. It could be older MLS listings. It could be expired MLS listings of vacant land or houses, right? But your goal now is to make 3 offers a day. Everything else, outsource to somebody else. So now you've got a daughter, you got a VA that's doing the stuff for you. Give them a scorecard. What's your end goal that you want them to do? So I say there's usually only 3 things a virtual assistant should be doing for you. Number 1, they should be doing all your marketing. Whether that's managing the direct mail, if you have a third-party mail company that's doing it, or you're doing it inside of FreedomSoft, they should be making sure that mail is going out every single week. Every week you're sending 300 postcards, 1,000 letters, or whatever. Every week that mail is being sent, and you're tracking the KPIs as they come in. By campaign, by county, how many outbound letters were sent, how many outbound dials were made, how many leads came in. And so you start tracking the number of leads, response rates, or number of leads per hour from cold calling or something like that, right? And you start tracking those numbers, those KPIs, by campaign and by county. So they make sure, number 1, the marketing is going out. The second thing that your VAs should be doing is updating your CRM, whether it's FreedomSoft or Pebble or whatever. There's 100 of them out there.
Yeah.
Maybe it's. I have friends that are using Evernote as their CRM.
Monday.
Or Monday.com. So make sure they are the ones managing that CRM. So every lead in that CRM that comes in gets a task assigned to it for follow-up someday in the future. There's no lead that's just flagged as follow-up with no task assigned to somebody in the future. Okay. So with a due date. So it's like a lead comes in. If it's a cold lead, all right, set a task in 30 days to call them again or follow up with them again. If it's a dead lead, follow up in 6 months or something. Every lead gets an offer that goes into the CRM, and every lead gets followed up with every 30 days at least, at a minimum, right?
All right.
So the third thing your assistant does then is follow up. They do all the follow up for you. And that could be sending a text, sending an email, making a phone call, doing a slide dial voicemail, sending a letter, sending another offer again. So those 3 things are so important. And you don't need to be the FreedomSoft expert or whatever CRM is. You get them to watch these training videos. FreedomSoft has a lot of really good tutorial videos.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. That's great, because I don't want to be a FreedomSoft expert. That's not my thing. The real estate part of it is my thing, and I want to pay them to do that. So that's good advice, and I want to implement that, so I don't get overwhelmed by this and having to learn. The learning curve is pretty, steep on this. So.
I get it. I did a podcast. I'm going to find this podcast and share it with you all, with a good friend of mine, Tom. Nice mug.
Thank you. Yeah, let me get a sip of coffee real fast here, Joe.
I love that mug. All right, so if you guys go to my website, realestateinvestingmastery.com, all right? I've been doing this podcast since 2011. And I have a video a podcast I did with a friend, Tom Kroll.
I know Tom Kroll.
It's called Best Uses of Virtual Assistants right here. Episode 84. So again, if you go to realestateinvestingmastery.com, and I hate that picture. I need to get rid of it. But then do a search up here in that search bar for Tom Kroll, Krol, and do a search for 084 or episode 84 or the best uses of virtual assistants. And on here, this has been my most recommended podcast I've ever done. And what we do in there is we talk about Tom. He was just overwhelmed with, he would have 20 post-it notes of the 20 sellers he talked to, all scattered all over the place. Then he tried to get real organized and put his notes on a yellow pad of paper. And then he'd spend a couple hours every day just trying to condense his notes and put them into the CRM. And then it had been like 3 hours and he forgot what he said to the seller, or he just forgot to put it in the CRM, and he was spending way too much time behind the computer. And he said, this has got to change. And I remember coaching him through this process. And so what he did eventually was he started using an app called WhatsApp, or Voxer is another one of that, where you're just so he created a brand new email for his virtual assistants that only his virtual assistant had. And every day the VA would send him 3 emails for the next 3 sellers that he had to call and talk to. And the email contained information on, the name, phone number, and address of the property, all the information he needed to know. And so he would just go to his email from his phone and see all the information, would call that seller, would write his notes from that phone call onto the pad of paper, and then would Voxer or send a voice memo through WhatsApp or something back to the VA. All right, wow. I talked to this seller, Susie Smith, 123 Main Street. Go ahead and mark on my calendar. I have an appointment with her tomorrow at 3 p.m. Or I'm going to go ahead and mark the lead as a cold follow-up, send her a letter, send her this blank letter, go ahead and send her an offer, and remind me in 30 days to follow up with her. Something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And so then he would dictate his notes, send it to the VA, who then he would delete the email and then go on to the next email. And This way then the VA got that voice message, updated the CRM with the notes, marked it as dead, marked it as follow-up, sent them an offer, to set a task to follow up again in 30 days or whatever. And they did all of that. And then when he got through his 3 emails, he would send another email or another Voxer message back saying, hey, send me my next 3 things I got to do. And the VA every morning would look and would prioritize all these leads and just send Tom 3 at a time of what he had to do next. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Does that helpful at all?
It is. That's good stuff.
That's huge. It's so important that you step away from the computer. You focus on your highest revenue generating activities, which is talking to sellers and making offers. And you get your assistant, your VA to do the $5 an hour activities. And as they get better at it and scale, you can start paying, like your daughter especially, right? I would be paying her $1 hourly rate or wage, right? And then, but then give her a percent of the profits.
Yeah.
And as she gets, that's what I did with my boys. I paid them, I don't remember, $12 an hour. And then I gave them a percent of the profit, and it was small, 5 or 10% of the profit of the deal. My other business partner, Matt, he gets a much larger percentage of the deal because he's doing more of the stuff. But like that way you're paying them something to keep them motivated to want to work with you, but you're also giving them incentive like, hey, once this deal closes, I'll give you 10, 15% of the profits.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's good. So
Do
Joe,
you have another question?
I had another question, and I actually, in the 5 weeks or so that it's been since I gave you my question, I kind of answered my own question. I don't know if you have time for it now. We could do it for other people if you want, but it was about markets and finding the right market. And I know you said don't worry about competition. Some of us still are in the back of our heads, and it was about finding the right market that's a good market, but not too competitive. And I know you did a video on this about 7 months ago, but I just wondered if you had any updates since that video on finding a good market. But in fact, for me personally, I've actually answered my own questions, so I'm good on markets. But if you want to talk about that real quick.
Well, what do you think? I'm curious to know what have you found to answer that question?
Yeah, well, as an appraiser, I'm a retired appraiser, but I kept my license, and I've done it for one reason. That's so I can have MLS access. So I thought to myself, what am I doing looking all over the country for the perfect market? The perfect market is right here in my own backyard. I'm in Central Texas, and I have MLS access here in Texas. Why not use the best source of data, which is MLS, in my opinion? to find
Especially
what I
in
need.
Texas. Yeah.
And Texas is a non-disclosure state, right? So
Yeah.
some people are hesitant to do business in non-disclosure states, but with the MLS, so that's my answer to my own question. And my market is here, and I'm gonna work the area that I feel comfortable with and that I'm familiar with as an appraiser, and I have MLS access.
Well, I love Texas. It's a great market. Florida
Yeah.
and Texas are the two top states for most activity. But I always I want to go into the areas where there is a lot of competition, because that means there's a big demand. There's a lot of people there that are buying properties. So I look at demand and think, where is all the activity happening? Who is buying what? What are they buying? And how can I just be a little fly on the elephant's back in that huge market there and get a piece of the pie? Because I understand the importance of systems and marketing, and I'm going to do more marketing than anybody else. I'm going to do more follow-up than anybody else. I'm going to make more offers than anybody else. So if you combine marketing and making offers and following up and talking to sellers and following up and making more offers, you're going to do deals. And then you find those other people that are already wholesaling deals. You find those other guys that are developing and splitting up these big lots, especially in Central Texas. There's a lot of that going on there.
Yeah.
You can partner with them on your deals, which is so cool, isn't it?
It is cool. Yeah. And those 4 things you just mentioned, those 4 items are basically the key to success in this business, right?
Yeah.
Tons of marketing, talk to people, make offers, and follow up. Yes. FU, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good. All right, Brian, we got to wrap this up. Anything else that I can help you with?
No, that's good. Those are my 2 questions for you. And I just wanted to tell you that I really appreciate you and your class. It's been great. It's very thorough, and it's got everything we need to get focused and make this work. So I've gone through it, Joe. I've gone through it probably twice, and I'm motivated and I'm focused, and you're going to have a success story here in a short while. So thank you.
Hey, Brian, real quick, how can people reach you if they're in Central Texas and they maybe have a deal, or do you have a social media profile or an email or anything you want to give?
I've got a marketing young lady that does marketing for me. She's my own daughter, and so she's got me all on the socials. It's all Aloha Land Capital. Let me put the hat on here.
That's a very Texas thing.
Yeah, no, it's not actually. My wife's like, what? So
I love it.
Yeah, it's
AlohaLandCapital.com
is my website. I was born in Hawaii, so it's a name I came up with a long time ago. But anyway, Aloha Land Capital, and I have a kind of a cool little phone number I recently got. It's 254-500-LAND. 254-500-LAND is my phone number if they want to call me. And
I love it.
Do it. So yeah, but thank you, Joe. I appreciate everything you do, and your course is great, and appreciate the time here today.
Well, thank you, Brian. Hopefully somebody reach out to you and maybe he's got a deal they can partner with you on it. That would be so cool.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Brian. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye. All right, guys, listen. If you want more information about this and you want to know, okay, Joe, how do I flip more land? Or what is this? How do you find the best counties? What do I send them? How do I target them? Right there, go to simplelandkit.com, simplelandkit.com, and check it out. I'd love to be able to help you any way that you need help with finding sellers, how to make offers, how to talk to sellers, how to follow up, how do the systems and the tools work? How do you do more deals with less effort? How can you make more money without spending a ton of money on marketing? How do you buy land without actually putting any money down? How can you buy land with no money? That's the cool thing. So if you want all that information, you can get it right there at simplelandkit.com. Check it out. And yeah, that's cool. Appreciate you guys. We'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.